Hey guys, Freddy here. Welcome back to another rules breakdown, and this time I'm going to be looking at this, Daggerheart, the playtest package which has come out from those wonderful people at Critical Role, and their imprint, Darrington Press, I believe it's called. And this is going to be one of the games that they're going to play on their YouTube channel, so this will probably be a huge success when it comes out. Now, they've released the open beta playtest package, which anybody can download. If you go over to their website, daggerheart.com, most likely, and enter your email address, it instantly starts a download. Now, if you're dodgy about handing over your email address, it instantly starts to download. It doesn't send you out a link, so you can enter in any email address at all. So bob@bob.com, test@test.com, whatever you want, you'll get the download without having to hand out your email address. I did hand over my email address, but it's just something I've noticed. Now, normally I would cover the entirety of the game before doing a rules breakdown, but this is a very bulky playtest package. We have things like a very nice playtest guide or play guide, which I'll be using for the majority of the rules. They've got the open playtest manuscript, which is 377 pages long, with very little art in it. Some of it's placeholder art, but mainly it's just text. There's a lot in there, so that's why I'm going to do the rules breakdown first, and I'll come back and have a look at the rules in more detail once I've had a chance to look through all of this. They give us a nice little quick start adventure, some character sheets and stuff like that. And I'm going to be using one of their sample characters for this rules breakdown. The very first one, Marlowe Fairwind, a sorcerer. Not because he's different to the rest, but because he's first. It's as simple as that. Now, there's some interesting stuff about these rules and some stuff I don't like, but we shall come to that as we go through. So let's have a look at Daggerheart. So, for tests in Daggerheart, you use 2d12 that you're rolling against a target number. And they recommend that you use a dice of a different colour for each, because one of your dice represents hope, and the other represents fear. So, you'll be choosing a hopeful colour for one and a fearful colour for the other. But I'm just rolling black dice on this automated dice roller, so I'll just treat it as the first dice that comes up is hope, and the second one is fear. Now, you're rolling these together to get against a target number set by your games master. So you're rolling 2d12 against a target number, but you're adding various bonuses. First of all, you're adding the attribute up here. So we've got agility, strength, finesse, instinct, presence, knowledge. So if the character is trying to work something out, I'm guessing it's probably going to be knowledge that he's rolling. This character has no bonus at all. But you can also add from your character's experiences. So this character's background has that they're a royal mage and not on my watch. Now, if you can weave them into the things, you're allowed to spend one of your hope points to add that bonus to your dice roll. So you're adding an attribute bonus, you're adding any other bonuses, and you're adding an experience if you're spending your hope point. Now, when you roll the 2d12, and let's just do it. So we've got an 11 and a 10. We've made 21, which is a pretty decent roll, whichever bonuses we're adding. And the hope dice has come up higher. So we earn a point of hope, which we can mark to our character sheet. We can store up to 5 here, and we can use those to activate experiences and on various other things within the game. If the other dice had come up higher, the fear one had come up higher, then something would have gone slightly wrong with it. So even if we'd made the target number, there'd have been a slight glitch to it, and we'd have done something slightly wrong. If we'd failed and done that, then it'd have been a catastrophic failure. And because we've rolled and succeeded and got the hope, we get the hope point. If we'd rolled and succeeded and the fear dice had come up higher, the games master would get a fear point, which they get to activate stuff with. Even if you fail or succeed or whatever, if the fear dice is higher, the games master gets that fear point. Now, we also have advantage and disadvantage, much like Dungeons & Dragons, but it works a slightly different way. If you get either advantage or disadvantage, you're rolling a d6 in addition to those two dice, but in advantage you're adding it to the total. Disadvantage, you're subtracting it from the total. Now, there are two ways of flexing things here. So you'll have your target number that you could increase if situations are more difficult, or the games master can impose advantage or disadvantage. So if it's a target number of 15 to lift a heavy stone from the mud, but it's muddy so it's slippy, so you might have disadvantage. So you've got the target number for doing the task plus disadvantage. We also have criticals. So if you roll your dice both the same, you've achieved a critical success, no matter whether you've made the target number or not. Two of the same are a critical success. Oh, I forgot to mention, for critical successes, you also get other bonuses as well as an automatic success. You also get a point of hope. You get to heal up a point of stress. And initiative. Well, initiative's kind of one of the more interesting parts of Daggerheart, because it is quite tactical in the way it works. You see, you roll no dice for initiative. The players go first. And they get to do as many actions as they want until they roll a failure. So the way they can work it out is one character, the heavy hitter, can keep rolling and rolling and rolling and hacking away at the enemies, doing whatever, until they roll a fail or they roll a fear. In which case, it then swaps over to the Games Master. And for every action the players have taken, the Games Master characters, the NPCs, get to take actions. So if you did 6 before rolling a fail or a fear, and it was spread between your entire party, or it was just one character, whichever way, the Games Master now gets to get 6 actions to respond to what you've done. And likewise, he can split it out as he wants. He can have 6 members of a tribe of goblins attack, or he can have the dragon attack 6 times if that's what he wants, if narratively that's what he wants to happen, what works for his story. Because this is a system very much about narrative structure. Oh, I forgot to mention, Games Masters can also interrupt players for actions by spending 2 of the fear points they've earned from players' fear dice coming up higher. So, if they want the bad guy to go first, they can spend 2 fear points, or they can interrupt the flow to change the way the battle's going. But they need to have those 2 fear points to spend to gain that extra action to interrupt the players. So, combat works the same way as ordinary skill rolls. Players are rolling their 2d12, their dice for hope and their dice for fear. And they are rolling using depending on what their weapon is. So the sorcerer here has a dual staff, which uses his instinct, so he's going to get +2 on his dice roll. And it's got a range of far, which is about 100 feet, I believe. So I'm guessing it's a staff of firing magic missiles rather than just a big stick he pokes things with. And you are rolling that as usual. So you're rolling 2d12 against a target number. Now, if you're fighting against a monster, the Forest Wraith here, on page 35 of the adventure, has a difficulty of 13 to hit. But if you're trying to hit a player, then they're using their evasion. So the players are rolling the 2d12 against target number of 13 for the Forest Wraith, or 9 if they're trying to hit the sorcerer here. However, the Games Master doesn't have hope and fear dice. He earns fear from the players, and he doesn't generate his own hope. What he does is he just rolls 1d20 against those target numbers. And he's got bonuses as well. So if we look at the monster here, it's got an attack modifier of +3. So he's going to be rolling a d20 +3, and he's going to be trying to hit a 9. So the monster rolls a d20 +3. He rolls a 1, 4, so he fails. But the sorcerer is rolling his 2d12. His fear succeeds, so the Games Master gets an extra point of fear, but he scored a 14, +2, 16, which beats the 13 target number. So he succeeds, he hits it. And so damage. Well, damage is based on your weapon. So the sorcerer here has his dual staff, which rolls 1d8 +2 damage. Magical damage, to be exact. So we're going to roll a d8 +2, and we get 10 points of damage. But that's not 10 points which goes straight through to the character. If he's trying to attack the monster, then they have these ratings here. They take a minor wound if they take 1 point, major if they take up to 10, and severe wound if they take up to 20. Now that's 1, 2, and 3 hit points of damage. So the 10 points of damage he's done is a major wound, so he's done 2 hit points out of their 6 hit points here. Likewise, players have their ratings. So he has 3 points for minor, 8 major, 13 severe. So 10 beats the major but doesn't reach the severe, so he's taken 2 hit points of damage. However, he can modify that by using his armor. Now his armor has 3 boxes here, so it has 3 uses, and it has 5. So he can reduce that dice roll by 5 by using up one of those. Now, when he's used up all 3, his armor's basically scrapped, it's got cuts and holes in it, and he needs to repair it during a rest. But he can burn that away, take that 8 down to a 3, so he only takes a minor wound. Sorry, it was a total of 10 down to 5, he only takes a minor wound, so he only takes 1 hit point of damage. He can downgrade the damage. Oh, I forgot to mention, if you take damage down below a minor wound, so if you've used your armor or the dice roll didn't meet it and it didn't reach 3 for this character, then instead of taking any hit points wound, you take stress. Now stress you can earn this way. You can also earn it doing other things. It's just a standard you are getting stressed attribute. But when it fills up, it starts to convert into hit points. So if you've taken 5 points of stress on this character and then you take another, then you take a hit point damage. So it's like a lesser form of hit points. It's like the stun category in Shadowrun, that when it fills up, it overflows. Although it will only be 1 point at a time. And health. Well, as I mentioned, you've got your hit points here, and you've got your stress, which is a lesser form of hit points, which, when it overflows, it becomes hit point damage. Now, these heal up during long rests and short rests. Now, one of the interesting things in short rests is that because it's a shorter rest, you can choose to do things like bind your wounds to heal hit points damage, like relax to get rid of stress. Or, if you've done none of those, your character can just sit and concentrate on things and earn a hope, which they can use later. So if you've not been hurt in damage and you're just resting along with anybody else, you can generate extra hope. Now, when your hit points reaches maximum, you fall down, you are dying. Now, there's 3 choices you can make upon reaching maximum hit point damage. These 3 are Blaze of Glory, where you can take 1 final action. It's counted as a critical success. You can, make a dangerous attack against an enemy, you can do something heroic, but your character expires. Secondly, you can avoid death. Your character falls to the ground unconscious, they need to be waited until they're bandaged or otherwise healed, but they're out of the combat for the moment. And finally, there's Risk It All, where you roll your hope dice, so you roll your 2d12. If your hope comes up higher, then your character will live. They've sort of got 1 hit point, they're standing there, but they're on death's door. If fear wins higher, then the character expires. And if there's a tie, well, that's super good for you. You're fully healed, your stress is gone, you have really done well by risking it all. So Daggerheart's a level-based system, so advancement's based on your level. And this one's level 1. Now, depending on which level you're increasing to, you get different things. Here on page 123, we can see that they're set up into 3 tier blocks. First tier is levels 2 to 4, second tier is 5 to 7, and third tier 8 to 10. And 10th level is the highest that you can reach. But as you go up, you get various abilities. So at level 5, 2, 5, and 8, you get an additional experience and add it to your character sheet. But you also get to choose advancements as you go up your level. So you could choose to increase 2 character traits. So flicking back to the character sheet, we could increase agility and strength, getting additional bonuses from them. You could increase an experience, so either adding another one or adding a bonus, so Royal Mage could go up to +3, for example. Increase your evasion, making yourself harder to hit, increasing your evasion from 9 to 10, for example. Permanently add 1 or more hit point slots. Add an armor slot. Armor slot's an interesting one, so instead of having 3 uses of armor before your armor's scrap, you could have 4, 5, 6, up to 9 options there. Add a stress slot, so as well as having more hit points, you can actually have more stress. Add a weapon proficiency. Increase damage threshold, so instead of requiring 3, it'd be 4 to do a minor damage, and otherwise stuff goes down to stress. Or you can increase your severe up to 14, 15 and higher. An upgraded subclass card. Well, I haven't gone into the cards at all, but these are extra abilities you get. And you can choose to multi-class, and you get very different abilities for multi-classing. Obviously, I haven't had a chance to look into all of that yet. So that's Daggerheart, and there's some really interesting stuff in there. I tend to like the initiative system. That's quite a fascinating way of handling it, where the players keep going until they roll a fail, and then the Games Master gets the same number of actions that the players got. That can be quite terrifying to the players if they're on a run, knowing that as soon as something goes wrong, the Games Master's going to get that wedge of actions to use against them. Especially if they're up against something powerful, which will be able to keep going and going and going against them. Also, it does add some flexibility that the Games Master can put fear points to the side, so when they come up against the big bad can go first, second, third, get a few actions out of the way by burning through all those fear points. So the players don't automatically have that advantage. They've accrued a problem for themselves later on. Absolutely fascinating idea. But I can see it being problematic that one player could dominate it because they happen to be better at combat. So they keep going because they're going to be the one handing out all the damage. And not everybody gets a turn. It's up to the players to decide who's going. And there's that one weaker character who's good at the social things or whatever, who gets left to the side during combat. So combats will become very boring for that player. I also like the problems, the complications that come up when the fear dice comes up. But it does seem to be double loading that, because not only is the Games Master getting a fear point to use later, but they're having to put in a complication. Now, while I like adding complications to things, I run the Star Wars D6 system a lot, and when you roll a 1 on your wild die, every dice roll has to have a wild die in there. If you roll a 1 on it, then there's a complication. But the Games Master has an out with that he can decide that instead of he needs to come up with something, you drop your gun, you trip over, something happens, that you just lose your highest dice. So the Games Master doesn't have to constantly think up with new things, and Daggerheart doesn't seem to have that out there for the Games Master. They always need to think of something to happen. And how many times before they start to run out of ideas because they're concentrating on everything else that's going on, that they go, oh, you drop your weapon in combat, and that just becomes dull because your characters are just dropping weapons left and right. It'd be far more interesting if it had a standard one that the Games Master could use, just so when he's too busy to think of anything else, he can just use that one. But there's a lot of interesting ideas in here. I will be digging further and having a further look at the rules and going through them in far more detail in some future week. But anyway, as usual, I think I've been wittering on for quite long enough. So thank you very much for watching as always. But most of all, you look after yourselves, and I'll catch you later. Bye now.